Hey everyone, my name is Chloe, and today I'm here to do my first half of April wrap-up. So the first half of April, the 15th is Monday, which is today, and I know I'm not going to finish anything else today, so I'm filming today. Normally I film on the weekends because that's when I have backup for my kids, so all three of my kids are within an arm's reach right now, so pardon me if there are a lot of interruptions and children coming in and out because that's just how it's got to be. So let's get into the stats, and then we'll talk about the books I read. Okay, so in the first half of April, I read 13 books, which is 4,211 pages. That's 281 pages per day. 324 pages was the average length of a book, and so that's 0.87 books per day. I read 6 novels and 6 graphic novels, which is how I read so much, and 1 tome. 7 were adult, 1 was young adult, and 5 were middle grade. You guys, 3 were from my shelf, 10 were from somewhere else. And these are just the books that I read for myself. I will talk about the books that I read with my kids, but anyway, 6 were from the library, 5 were from Libby, 1 was from Spotify, and 1 was just directly off my shelf. 7 paperbacks and 6 audiobooks. 3 were new releases and 10 were backlist. So all over the board. As far as genre goes, we had 3 contemporary, 2 historical, 2 mystery thriller, 2 women's fiction, 1 magical realism, 1 nonfiction, 1 romance, 1 sci-fi fantasy. So all over the darn board, as I always am. But yeah, when you come to this channel, you know it's going to be a mixed bag. So as far as star ratings go, I had 1 2.5, 4 3 stars, 5 3.5 stars, and 3 4 stars. So not a great first half of the month. It's 3.38 is the average. So it was like below what I would recommend generally. Yeah, some not great stuff. So let's get into it. First, I'll talk about the books that I read with my kids, which is these 4. We read Roxie and the Hooligans. This is by Phyllis, Reynolds, Naylor. And we hated this book. Like, this is a 1-star book. And I think this is a series. This is about a bunch of kids who are so mean. Well, Roxie is the girl. And these children torment her because she has big ears. And they are like, they're throwing eggs at her and trying to get her to put underwear on her head because it's supposedly the only hat that will fit her. And they chase her literally into a dumpster because she's trying to climb the dumpster to get into the school to be safe. And they all fall in the dumpster. The dumpster gets taken out to sea, and they're all dumped at the sea. And so her and these terrors are on this island trying to survive. And honestly, I stopped reading it with my kids and just finished it off myself to know how it ended and see if there was like a huge character arc. And there's not. Like, these kids start being nice to her because she's the only one that can survive. But like, they're awful. It was awful. And we see that they have like harder home lives. Things aren't hunky-dory for them. There's a reason they're kind of jaded, you know, but like, this was awful. Highly do not recommend. Then we read Jada Jones' Nature Lover, which is number 6 or 7 in the Jada Jones series. Okay, so this is number 6 or 7 in Jada Jones. They go on a field trip. Her grandpa is one of the chaperones, and so she wants to like show off all she knows about nature. But like, she's kind of getting overshadowed, and she's kind of like freezing. And so, yeah, there is that going on, but he loves her anyway. There's also a zip line opportunity, and she's really scared of heights, so she overcomes that fear. It's great. Next is the Ghost in the Treehouse, which is the haunted library, number 6 or 7 also. This is about a ghost and a real girl. They are a team trying to solve ghost cases, and so that people think there's a ghost in the library or in the treehouse. And so Kaz is the little ghost. He got separated from his entire family when they got blown into the outside, and so he is trying to find his family as well. And so every time they go on a ghost case, they think they might find another family member. And I will tell you, in this book they do, and I was so happy about it. And then last that I read with them was Book Uncle and Me. This is about a little girl in India, and there's this guy called Book Uncle that is on the corner, and he has like a little free library. So every day he gives her the perfect book for her, and she decides that she wants to read a book a day for the rest of her life. And I like, this is so bookish. But then the big bad mayor requires him to have a permit, and he can't afford it. And so his lending library is shut down. It's right around the times of mayoral election, and so our little girl, I can't remember her name, but Yasmin and her friends and family try to support other candidates so Book Uncle can stay kind of in business, for lack of a better word, because he is just a book lover who loves to share his books. And I love this. I love like the bookishness. I love what it said about like how little voices, little things can make a huge impact. And overall, this was so good. We really, really enjoyed it. It's also got very short chapters. So this was like so easy to fly through. So that's everything I read with the kids. Now let's get into the middle grade graphic novels, mostly, that I read for myself. Now my daughter, she is 6 and she reads at like a 4th grade reading level, and so she has really been wanting graphic novels, and I've been having a heck of a time finding things that are appropriate, like challenging enough for her to enjoy them, but like content wise appropriate for a 6-year-old, because her reading level does not match her like maturity level. So I read Katie the Cat Sitter, which is Best Friends for Never. This is actually number 2. This is a series I'm letting her read, but I don't honestly really enjoy it. I was thinking it might get better, but it's a world in which superheroes and regular people coexist somehow. And Katie, our main character, is a cat sitter for like 300 cats for this girl who's also a superhero, this woman who's also a superhero, and she kind of gets to be a sidekick, and there's some good versus evil stuff, superhero stuff. Again, it's not very clear like how the worlds intersect and what all's going on, but this was okay. Next, I have Just Roll With It, which this cover is awful. This is not like the cover that they show on Goodreads, but Just Roll With It by Veronica, Agarwal, and Durfey, Lavoie. This is about a little girl who really struggles with some OCD, honestly. She has this like fictional game thing that she plays where she rolls a dice to basically tell her what she can and can't do. And it's about her like coming of age, finding her place in middle school, late elementary school, something like that. But also it has a discussion around those OCD tendencies. And I didn't really like the way her family approached it. They were very like confrontational, I guess, about her potential neurodivergence, but overall this was a decent read, not anything great. Next is the first in the Blue Star series, and this is The Vice Principal Problem. I really love this book. This is about 2 cousins who lived completely different lives, and now they have to live together with one of their mom, dad, and grandma. They share the grandma, but then it's the mom and dad, and they have to live together because the other one's parents are deployed, and they don't get along at first. They have to share a room, and then their vice principal is up to no good, and so they work together to kind of confront that issue in a good way. I really like this. I can't wait for the next one. If you can hear, she wants to go outside, so just a second. Next, we have Play Like a Girl by Misty Wilson, and this is a graphic memoir about a girl in 7th grade who wants to join the boys' football team, and she like gets a lot of pushback. The boys do not want a girl on the team, and so they are mean to her, and she just persists. She's like, you know what, I'm fast, I'm strong, I can do this, whatever, and she persists. And I loved this because at first she gets her best friend to join the football team with her, and then her best friend's like, forget that, like that's hard. And so but she continually persists and becomes actually very good. It was interesting in the end, the author's note says she does not play past 7th grade. She just realized the boys were getting stronger, faster. You know, the testosterone was kicking in a way that she couldn't keep up with, or she felt she couldn't keep up with, which was really surprising to me based on how much she persevered in this book. So I really like the exploration of friendship too, because like her best friend was really changing what was important to her, who she wanted to hang out with, what her values were. And so their friendship kind of fizzled, and our main character, Misty, had to find new friends. And that, I think, is something that we all go through at some point in middle school in some friendship. So I really enjoyed this book and would definitely recommend. And then last is Doodleville by Chad Sell. This is about a little girl who her doodles come to life, and she doodles this Leviathan monster, I guess, and she wants him to be cute and cuddly, but he turns out like takes over and becomes bad and ruins all of Doodleville as well as the rest of the art club's drawings. And so it's that story. There is more to this series, and I will definitely continue. I liked it. It's definitely too scary for my 6-year-old, but it was I enjoyed reading it. Next, the 1YA is Saving Sunshine, and this is about a brother and sister who do not get along at all. Their family goes on vacation. Well, not vacation. The mom is a like well-known pediatrician, and she's out at speaking at this pediatrician conference, and they are left to each other, like with each other all day. They can't have their cell phones because of their behavior and stuff. And so they find this she loves animals, he loves space. They find a way to make both work, but she finds this turtle, they take care of it, etc. This would have been great. My problem is it's too short. It is like this wasn't a complete enough story. I wasn't able to get attached to the characters enough. They went from really disliking each other to being like bonded siblings, saving each other's days in an unrealistic way. So yeah, that was just okay. So now let's get into the adult reads. So I'm going to make sure, I don't think I have them all, so I'm going to make sure I get them all. But we have Iona Iverson's Rules for Commuting by Claire Pulley. So this one is, I read this for a Patreon recommend, so I have a full vlog over on Patreon, always linked down below. This one is one that is about Iona Iverson. She's this older lady who was an influencer, like back in the 80s, like before influencers were a thing. And now she's this older lady, and it's about her and her relationship with 5 people that she meets on the train that she commutes on every day. And I really love the found family elements. I liked all the different perspectives. However, it jumps really quickly. And so I was invested in them, but not to a point that like it didn't go deep enough that I'm going to remember this for very long. So I enjoyed it, didn't love it. There's that. Next, we have The Secret of Happy Ever After, by Lucy Dillon. This is a story of 2 women. One is Michelle and one is Anna. Michelle is a woman who is estranged from her husband. He won't agree to a divorce, so they've been like estranged for years until whatever the cutoff is when she can file for a divorce. And her family loves the guy, so they're really not really with her. And so she is very much a workaholic. She opens this bookstore. Well, she has a home decor store, and she wants to take over the shop next door, which is a bookstore, and there is a clause that she has to leave it as a bookstore. So she takes over with the help of her brother, who is kind of a couch surfer, doesn't really have his stuff together, all that. He's living in the apartment above the shop, and helping her make a website. And so she's trying to make this bookstore survive, and also trying to like incorporate her love of home goods and things into it. And she's just very, very type A, very closed off, all of that. Well, we also have her good friend Anna, Anna is the stepmother to 3 teenage daughters. She's married, and the mother is off in the States. This is set in the UK. The mother's off in the States, but there's complicated dynamics with these 3 teenage girls. And so there's that going on. She loves books, so she becomes the manager of the bookstore, and it's her figuring out her relationship. She really wants a baby, but her husband's a little off of that because he's got 3 teenage daughters, and he's like starting back over. Sounds a lot. So it's all of that, and one of the daughters gets to know Michelle's brother, so there's a little bit of a romance there. This book, I would say this was the tome. It's 500 pages, and it did not need to be that long. It was good, but it had really slow points. It doesn't need to be this long, so I gave it a 3-star. Next is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. This is another Patreon, so I will leave you over there if you want to see my full thoughts, but I didn't like this book at all. It's like a crime thriller. I didn't like our main character. She has she's undercover identity, and she's got this Mark that she's working with right now, and so there's all trying to figure out who she actually is. You get like flashbacks from the past to know who she actually is and how she got to where she is now, but honestly I just didn't care. I didn't care at all. This book fluctuated between like boring and unbelievable, because there's things that happen really conveniently, and so I was bored. I didn't care about any of the characters, and so I give that 2.5 stars. Next is the biggest shock of the year so far, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So I got this because it was one of the Book of the Month freebies, because it was one of the Book of the Month favorites, and Abby Jimenez and I didn't love Part of Your World, so I was like, I don't know. This is the only one that I didn't have that I wanted to somewhat read. So I got this, and I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. So this is about a doctor named Brianna. She's the best friend of the girl in Part of Your World. So Brianna, her life is just having a hard time. She is getting divorced because her husband cheated with like her best friend, and or maybe not her best friend, but her husband cheated, whatever. And then this new doctor comes into her hospital, and she thinks he's after the chief position, which is something she thought she was a shoo-in for. and she's just having a hard time. Her brother is having kidney failure, and so he needs a kidney, and he's really depressed, and there's a lot going on in her life. And so then, what's the guy's name? I already forget. Jacob. Jacob is the other doctor. Jacob has moved hospitals because his girlfriend left him for his brother. And so they all worked in the hospital together. He needed to change of scenery. He struggles a lot with anxiety, and the anxiety rep in this book is so good. My anxiety is much different than Jacob's. His is a lot of social anxiety and things, which is not the kind of anxiety I have. But like the way that even when they were just friends, the way she treated him and kind of helped him through it and didn't judge him at all for his anxiety, and just the way they supported and loved each other was so good. So good. This book was a romance. Yes, primarily a romance, but I was so bought in, and like there's so much deeper stuff going on as well that I loved this. And there is like one or two steamy scenes, but they happen like 80% of the way through the book. Most of this is pretty clean, pretty sweet, very emotionally impactful. So good. I highly enjoyed this book. Next, we have The Girl from the Train, which was another Patreon recommends. But this, long story short, this is about a 6-year-old girl who was on a train to Auschwitz during World War II. It's right near the end. And then a guy named Jakob, who is a part of the Polish resistance, and he sets a bomb on the train tracks, thinking it's going to be a group of Nazis coming in, but it's this train headed for Auschwitz, and she's the only survivor. So he's 21, she's 6. He kind of becomes a caretaker for her, and they have that relationship, and then he sends her to South Africa because there's like homes there for kind of children of the war. Now, when she goes, she has to pretend to be Protestant and all of that. And there's a lot of talk, like the majority of this book, like 75% of this book takes place in South Africa. It is not about World War II, really. And so it takes place there. It's talking about apartheid and the different religious tensions between Catholics, Jews, Protestants, all the things. It's talking about that and kind of how interrelationships are not really allowed at that time. And then Jakob comes back when our main character is 18 and he's 15 years older than that. And the two have a romance. And I am a hard pass on that. Not because there's a 15-year age gap. Whatever. That is none of my business. I don't care. But the fact that they had a caretaker-child relationship, they met when he was 21 and she was 6, it felt predatory, it felt gross, it just felt disgusting. I was not on board. I've heard a lot of other complaints that the part in South Africa is too slow, too fairy tale-like, because it all wraps up really nicely, and that part didn't really bother me, because the beginning part with the World War II stuff felt very like stoic and anticlimactic, even though the plot points were happening quickly. But I just didn't like the writing style, really couldn't buy into the romance. Hard pass. And then last is unfortunately another one that I didn't love, and that's Lisa Scottolini's The Truth About the Devlins. I love Lisa Scottolini. This is an arc that I got, the book just came out, but love her as an author. Love the idea of this book. This book is about a family of lawyers called the Devlins. John is like the golden boy. He's a lawyer. He's just like his dad. He's just awesome. In everybody's eyes, he's perfect, whatever. Well, he comes to the black sheep of the family named TJ and says, hey, I just killed one of my clients on accident. Help. And so TJ, he's kind of the black sheep because he's the only one that's not a lawyer. And he has done time in jail for things he did because of his alcoholism. He was drinking out of time and did some neglectful things, had time in jail, etc. Now he's out. He's been clean for 2 years, and John needs him to help figure out this murder situation, and so he does. Now, I did not like this book because John and the dad especially are horrible characters, and they treat TJ so freaking bad that I was like, TJ, go, just tell him no, like go on, move on. There are things from the very beginning of this book that John does to TJ that I'm like, that is awful. And yet TJ is so sweet and just keeps going. And his sister Gabby also asks him for help because she's a pro bono lawyer, and she's trying to help people who were wrongfully medically experimented on. And so he's helping all of his family, being this investigator. And there were parts that I had to be like, well, why are you even investigating that? Like, and a lot of parts that I'm like, stop being walked on. But the characters in this book are just horrible, except for TJ, and Gabby's fine. But like, this is definitely, I thought this was going to be like a domestic family drama, but it's definitely a crime thriller, which is not my favorite in the first place. And then all the terrible, horrible characters. I like this, maybe 3 stars, but wouldn't really recommend a set. But I loved, like, in the end, she writes an author's note about all the research she did on AA, and like, it's a true, the medical experimentation is based on a true event, and like, she does so much research, and her writing style is great. I just didn't like this book because of largely the bad characters and the crime thriller element. So that's everything I read in the first half of April. Thank you for manning with the chaos. We will see you in the next one. Yeah, thank you so much for watching.